Today we'll start, or rather continue, with the Sigalovada Sutta. Previously, we've already talked about the 4 actions and the 4 causes of harmful deeds, and the 6 ways of squandering wealth. In fact, within which included 36 different ways of squandering under the 6 categories, including alcoholism, intoxication, and roaming the streets at inappropriate times, partying, and compulsive gambling, as well as bad companionship, laziness. We've already covered the part of the faults or the danger could be caused of gambling, partying, intoxication, and roaming the streets. Nowadays, people wouldn't consider drinking is a problem, or spending time at streets or roaming the street is a problem, or gambling, or partying. But from deep analysis, we'll see that in fact, all of these actions brings lots of dangers and faults, and could cause unnecessary suffering and obstacles. Therefore, we should spend time to contemplate on these teachings, which will definitely help us in our daily life. I heard people saying that if I were to study this at a younger age, I would have made much less problems and made much less wrong choices when I was young, because people probably with ignorance made lots of unnecessary wrong choices and mistakes. But it is necessary, and it is still hopeful that once you study this, you will still be able to correct your misdeeds that you conducted when you were young, which probably created lots of negative karma. But you still have a chance and still have a hope. I think people should learn truth from different ways. This is very important and very necessary. Now we are going to talk about the habitual partying. The first one is once you attend those habitual partying, and then you start to ask where's the dancing and where's the singing, like singers. Second one is asking for dance. People like different types of dancing and don't really like any other knowledge. The third one is a music instrument. Lots of instruments that we have nowadays also counts. And the next one is telling stories and poetry, such as those. TV and TV series and so on. Those could also count in those. And then the next one is hand bells. The sixth one is drumming. All of those are used in India as instruments, as entertainment instruments. And those all have those all could bring different faults and lead people to dangerous routes. Once you dwell in those, once you are very much addicted to entertainment. So if you continue to dwell in those entertainment as well as music and songs, then the wealth that of your family will decrease day by day. I think you all know this. Lots of people really enjoy entertainment. They like singing, dancing. They all like to participate in certain kind of entertainment activities, including the which will make you forget about your long aspirations or your good aspirations. I think a group of people in the society, they all really enjoy entertainment, dancing, singing, TV, movies, short video clips, and arts. People also go to different colleges or schools to study how to become an actress or how to make a movie. Many people do gain some happiness through such entertainment, and some people keep or use entertainment as a part of their livelihood. But for people whomsoever are searching for the truth, if you were to dwell in such entertainment, then you will forget the important things that you want to do in this lifetime and the things that could be beneficial for your next lifetime. Those meritorious things could also be forgotten and left out. Some people may consider the time of entertainment is really the most enjoyable time in this lifetime, but how about the next lifetime? In the Samyaktagama Sutra, where someone asked the Buddha, saying that there are many people who spend their time by dancing and singing and entertaining everyone. And I heard that people who do this for a living would be reborn in celestial realm. Is that true? And he asked the Buddha 3 times because he didn't reply. And then Buddha finally replied and said, whenever you are entertaining, whenever you are singing and dancing, the mind is in a state of desire and anger and ignorance. It is just like a person who is already fettered by lots of ropes, and once you splash water on it, the ropes will get even tighter. So human beings are already fettered by the 3 poisons, and once you dwell or once you participate in more of the singing and dancing, then that could only make the fetters of samsara even tighter. And those kind of karma that they make, they create, could only cause them to be reborn in the lower realms. The person who asked the Buddha said, well, the person who asked the Buddha then couldn't help but burst out in tears because he said that many people made their livelihood through such a way, and I really feel very sad for them. I think nowadays people are very much interested in dancing and in singing and entertainment. But once you dwell in those, once you grasp in those, then that could really create some kind of harm into your mind. Including nowadays on internet, nowadays people are so much addicted to internet. They couldn't keep their hands off the games. Even in our class, I think in our class is a little bit better. In the Tibetan monastics class, some young lamas, some very young novice, they would secretively play video games on their cell phone without the teachers noticing them. Everyone else already know that he was playing. I think this is the modern world. It's very easy to dwell in entertainment. It may seem to be very pleasant, very enjoyable, but that is not beneficial to your mind. Back in 2018, the WHO posted a report and saying that online addiction is also a psychological illness that should be cured. And many people are having this kind of addiction. And there are people who are so addicted to video games and play for a long period of time and dies immaturely because of a long time of play. Our world is so chaotic nowadays. And people nowadays are so prone to different kind of psychological illness. In the last century, we probably even haven't heard too much about psychological illness. Someone said the 19th century was a century for most deaths of illness were caused by pneumonia and lung related. In the 20th century, the deaths of illness were caused mainly by cancer, and the death of 21st century would be mostly caused by mental illness. The people nowadays would use all different methods to fish you, to get hooked of their entertainment. They use different wordings. They would use different methods. They would act first, and once they know what you're interested in, then they'll set up a big web to trap you in there. And once some people get trapped, get captured by that web, then they really don't have the opportunity to get out of such web that's set out by those merchants. And this is not just for this lifetime. In fact, it also influences your next lifetime. It is not to say that we completely deny the songs and dances. In some chantings, there are some really beautiful chanting, use different musical instruments, especially in Vajrayana practices and rituals. In the cloud offering, where we would play different instruments and dance and use such a form to offer to the bodhisattvas. In the Vajrayana school, there's also the Vajra dance and Vajra songs. So we're not completely rejecting that, the sound and dances. But myself, I don't like singing and dancing because I'm not so good at those. But for those people who are very good at singing or dancing, who have very good voice, and then you could do it on your spare time, and as long as you're not dwell in this. Because when you look at your life, especially when you're older, And looking back at your life, if you spend too much time, squander too much of your lifetime in singing and dancing and entertainment, then you would feel very much disappointed and even very much feeling upset of wasting those time. So if you have such talent, then you could sing and dance, but as long as you're not dwelling or have addiction to those entertainment, then that's good. The next one says that there are 6 dangers of being in bad companionship. The first one is that over here, the translation is a bit different. So the Chinese version says that the first one is the bad friend, a bad companion, would use all different methods to deceive you. Second, a bad companion would lead you to stay in rather dark and concealed places and hide or conceal themselves to do evil actions. That's also because of the influence of bad companion, such as gangs and terrorist groups. On the surface, their propaganda may seem very romantic, but the reality of it is not. The third one. The third one is to seduce the friend's family. Not only this bad companion would conceal yourself, it would also conceal the family members or relatives. There are the pyramid scheme where we can see that the family would all get trapped in such a pyramid scheme because of a bad companion who lured them in. The fourth one is scheme after your wealth. The fifth one is trying to hoard all the wealth to himself and not using all those wealth to benefit the society. Sixth one is always talking bad about others, to complain and to say other people's disadvantage. So, those are the 6 dangers of a bad companion. And if you associate yourself with such bad companion, then the wealth of your family will decrease day by day. In Buddhism or in this world, I think it's quite important to differentiate who or what the bad companion is. A bad companion could create a great influence to one. Mipa Rinpoche said, I can't remember the Tibetan verses then. Anyhow, the different methods of bad companion may appear to be very skillful, and they may appear to have a nice smile and really warm-hearted, but in fact, their intention is quite malicious. And sometimes you may feel that a good friend who is quite stern to you is a bad friend, despite the intention is to help you. In the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, where it says that evil friend destroys innumerable good bodies and innumerable good minds. Because of the evil friend, the influence of an evil friend could destroy innumerable good bodies or good people. So the influence could be tremendous. The influence and the influence of an evil friend could be quite long-lasting, but some sages and some good minds or good friends could also bring great influence. The Buddha himself even said that it's important to not be associated with evil friends. The Buddha told Ananda, saying that we should go around it. We should go around this person. And then Ananda asked the Buddha, saying that you are already a Buddha, an enlightened one. You already attained such a fruition of Buddhahood, and then why you have to walk around that person? And the Buddha said that when I was enlightened under the Bodhi tree, the Mara manifested himself as innumerable animals and as different types of weapons. But I was not harmed. Even a single hair of myself was not harmed. However, a bad friend create influence to each practitioner. Therefore, we should part ourselves with bad friends. What is a close friend? Those who are inclined to virtue, acting good, and upholding morality are your true relatives and friends. Those who go against virtues are not to be called as relative friends. It is recorded in the Uddanavarga Sutra. Your parents, your brothers, sisters, all of those people we consider them as relatives. However, if they always stop you from doing virtuous things, then they're not your relative, they're not your friends, they're not your close ones, they're rather considered as your enemies and foes. They could really stop you from your virtuous future. So who are considered as your relatives and friends then? They are the ones who are inclined to virtue and encourage you to practice virtuous things. Between now and the Bodhi, whomsoever encourage you to do more virtuous things, then those could be considered as the closest relative and friend. Part yourself from evil friends and make yourself or associate yourself with good friends. That's what a practitioner should do. In fact, this is not just for practitioners. The mundane, worldly people, you can also notice and look at yourself. You'll see that how you are very easily to be influenced by people you surround yourself with. If you meet a person who is virtuous, you notice that you get his or her virtuous habits, and vice versa. Even if you're staying over at a hotel, and the person who is staying in the same room with you, and if your friend is if the person would sit up at 4 a.m. and started to meditate, then you would feel rather quite self-conscious and feel ashamed of yourself of not doing such virtuous deeds. So through such ways, you will get good influence. So it's quite important to associate yourself with good friends and not associate yourself with bad friends. In the Sutra of Sublime Dharma of Clear Recollection, where it says that whomever you are associated with, whatever fellowship you are engaged in, such closeness will assimilate your way of behaving to be virtuous or non-virtuous. If you continuously to close yourself or associate yourself to good person, to a good friend, then your actions and your behavior, your habitual patterns will change. This is very natural. This is just how things are. You will get infected by their good or other people's good or bad actions or bad habits. So, if we associate ourselves with people who are virtuous and good in this world, then you will notice your changes. And also, you could also see or observe other people and notice if this person really likes to associate her or himself to a good person, then that person will get improvement, and vice versa. Some teachers usually observe their students in such a way. I noticed my student who was a very good student to start with, but nowadays that student has been associating him or herself with a really bad student. Therefore, I think he's going to get a really bad influence. So, the teachers have such a way of observing the students. In the East, that's how the teachers observe the teachers, how the teachers observe the students. And in the West, I think those professors and teachers also do the same. It is applicable to all people. So, we should associate ourselves with good friends. Next one is laziness. Laziness also has 6 kinds of dangers or faults. The first one, when we talk about the associate yourself with good friends and not with bad friends, in different editions, in different translations, they are different. Some say that the drunkard and thugs and all of those, and cheaters, and don't associate yourself with such people. So some editions or some translations are similar, but anyhow, those are just different editions. So you could all look up all those different editions and contemplate with your own wisdom. Anyhow, I think different editions all have different benefits and different merits. Therefore, it's unnecessary to abandon one edition and pick up the other edition. Maybe because when Shakyamuni Buddha was teaching this sutra, the retinues of the Buddha or the Arhats at that time They had different notebooks. Maybe some read those arhats' notebook in different ways. Some may have read it in the way that their actions, and some may have taken them as their people. Just as I said, when you're transcribing some audio recordings, some people who have wisdom, they really understand what the person is trying to say, and some not. In fact, when the Buddha was giving the teaching, the Buddha really gives the teaching to each and every single one. So everyone could receive different benefits through different editions. We should have this pure view and inclusiveness when it comes to different editions. Rather than nowadays some scholars, they just willingly take one edition and abandon the other edition and call this one a fake sutra and the other one a true sutra. Why is that? It's because at that time, at that historical time, and so on, maybe this edition didn't say this, therefore this edition is wrong. Some scholars, because they don't have faith, they don't understand what the Buddha was teaching. They don't understand why and how people and sentient beings could have a different understanding and different perspective. So only from historian's point of view and scholars' point of view, the study is rather not very professional. For example, if I study chemistry and then study Buddhism, then obviously what I study in Buddhism would be different. It would be very unprofessional. Because there was no systematic study behind or in my background. So as Buddhists, on one hand, we should look at practitioners' point of view. Also, we need to be very open and we need to look at other people's opinion to Buddhist opinion. And when you see that their opinion and their academic view is wrong, then at that time you should challenge them. Don't just practice patience with them. Because the true sutra is not decided based on the academics. And when you hear different words from others, the people may have different opinions about the sutras, and then maybe they'll associate with a group of others to attack such sutra. Then the majority of people would feel that the sutra is really fake. We should fight for truth. And in the past, all the great masters, they all have given up a lot and they put lots of effort to protect the truth of the sutra, to teach, to propagate, to protect, to carry forward. Such responsibilities are on all of our shoulders. It's not like in the Zen tradition how the fifth patriarch would pass the bowl which symbolized authority to the sixth patriarch. It's not like that. It's everyone has the responsibility. When we have such opportunity to study sutra, to study Buddhism, I think it's wonderful. Those young people, those Dharma masters, whomsoever have such opportunity to study, to have the opportunity of studying systematically, then once you mature, once you grew up, then at that time your wisdom will mature and you have the ability to benefit all sentient beings. This is very natural. So whenever you see that there are really unreasonable attack to Buddhism, that's the time you should stand up for Buddhism. This is a new shirt, but this is too tall. It's a bit tight. Next one, it's laziness. The 6 dangers inherent in laziness: too full or too rich. So, I don't want to work. Too much wealth, too much authority, too much power. Then all those kind of people are enjoying this life too much, and they don't want to put effort in something that requires effort. There are people who have wealth and also want to put effort in the pursuit of truth. But when people have wealth, they don't want to study. And they give up very easily. They maybe listen to 1 or 2 classes and then give up again. Second one is too hungry or too poor. Therefore, don't want to work. This kind of people have such a habitual pattern of not working. They don't want to practice, they don't want to work, they're not interested in anything in this world. So that's the second kind of laziness. The third one is when it's too cold, they don't want to work. They don't want to get out of the door, they don't want to come to the shrine hall to listen to class. In the winter, some of our practitioners, they're just like they're just like hibernating in their cozy blankets, and they wear a lot because they're too afraid of coldness. And the fourth one is when it's too hot. They don't want to practice either. Just as in some countries like India, some parts of India, and some southeast countries, it's too hot. They don't want to sit there and listen to class either. And it's too early, they don't want to practice. Some practitioners really take time to take rests. But my weekends were like this. On the Sunday, I went to the school. I built, and 200 students were there. And only 4 girls were out there, were reading books and studying. There's only 60 days before their graduation. when I was in school, I wasn't that diligent, but much, much more diligent than people nowadays. And people nowadays are like, they only study the night before exam tomorrow. Well, if you study all night, and how can you perform your best the second day? You get really drowsy. The sixth one is too late and don't want to practice. Okay, tomorrow is too late, I'm too drowsy, don't want to study. So those are the 6 dangers of laziness. Therefore, if one continue to be lazy, then use different excuses to be lazy, the wealth of the family will decrease day by day. So it's a part to teach the people to be more diligent. Otherwise, you won't be able to succeed in anything in this world. If you're not diligent, if you're always lazy, don't mention about this transmundane practice of Buddhism. You can't even succeed in worldly life. In the Mahayana 6 Paramita Sutra, it says that for people of being lazy and indolent, they're not capable of accomplishing any mission. Cooking, laundry, cleaning, house chores, all of those things, I think the lazy people don't even want to do it. Even when they are carrying 1 bucket of water, they are breathing heavily. It seems that they're very incapable of doing anything. They feel it's a burden to do anything. Don't even mention about propagating the Dharma. They can't even take care of themselves in terms of their own life. So, you should be diligent and not be lazy. In the Bodhicharyavatara, where it talked about different types of laziness, the laziness of indulge yourself in the worldly things and not practice, that's one type of laziness. Only think too low of yourself and not push yourself to do bigger things, that's laziness. And procrastinate is also another way of laziness. There is the sickness called procrastination that almost everyone, and nowadays it's getting even worse. There's a report saying that in China, lots of the university students have such kind of habit of procrastination. At first, or a few years back, it was 70 or 80%, and nowadays has been over 90% of students all have procrastination problems. They would think that, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later, I'll do it after browsing this website, and they end up not doing anything for the whole day. If you don't have deadline, they won't do anything. And people often feel that it's important to have instant gratification, especially in the age of cell phone, iPad, all different entertainment gadgets. They would do everything in order to distract oneself from doing the most important things. It's just like there's a monkey that is just trying to have the instant gratification. Everyone in the West, they have deadline. They have very strict deadline. You need to hand in this homework by 3:30 p.m. tomorrow. But over here, people often only finish on the day, and then they don't have a precise deadline. And people only do their homework a night before. Some of the volunteers, when they do their reports, they don't do any reports before. They only spend all-nighter to finish the report and then hand it in the second day. I don't think that's good. I think we should use the right mindfulness to look at the causes of distraction in this world. The biggest problem of procrastination is delaying the worldly work or delaying your practice. And if you continue to delay it, then your life will be over without you noticing it. If you don't procrastinate, you can actually finish lots of things and do a lot of things in this world. There's a famous basketball player, Kobe Bryant. After he retired from being an athlete, he actually were able to complete many things in his life. He finished the autobiography and many other things. He get up really early in the morning, and then he go to gym and do his exercise, and then engage his day. He doesn't have too much excuses. He doesn't say that I'm too cold, I'm not feeling well, I have a friend coming over. He doesn't do that. He just does whatever that needs to be done. No excuses. In fact, I think Kobe actually has lots of wisdom and lots of capacity. After retirement, how many people could be able to still continuously be diligent in other areas? You may be diligent in summer because the weather is nice here. You may be not diligent in winter because it's too cold. Maybe diligent when you have money. When you are poor, you're no longer diligent. And when you're happy, you're diligent, and not when you're unhappy, you're not diligent. That's not diligence. There's no differentiation for them to be diligent. They have no excuse. They have no other reasons. They have no other conditions would distract them from the goal that they want to attain. And of course, there are another type of person, they just tag them and label them, saying that I am a lazy person. This is not relevant to me. I'm just going to have my food and eat. There are probably people right now laughing at what I'm talking about and saying that whatever you're talking about, it doesn't matter to me. Maybe there are people who are just not going to change anyways. But my words are for the people who still have the conscience and want to change. And after listening to this, they are ready to change and they want to make a change. I think it's important to be consistent, to be diligent and consistent every day. I notice some volunteers, some people who engage in the after-class discussion group. The biggest problem of people who left is that they used to be diligent at the beginning, and then with time, they lost their passion. They can only last for a few months, a few years. After 7-8 years, they feel that it's time for me to get retired because I'm not keeping up with my good health. It's been too long because I lost my good hearing, my good vision. I have many things to do. But really, I think everyone should have a thing that you want to accomplish in your life as the most important thing that you want to accomplish and continue to do it for your whole life. There are people who are really outstandingly smart, but they're not successful because they're not really persistent. They give up very easily. They don't have the patience. But a person who is rather much less smart than the first kind, they are very persistent. They have patience, and then they will succeed. Just as two people running in a marathon, the first one sprint at the beginning may be much faster at first, and the second one is consistently at the same pace, then the second one probably would win the marathon because he kept his energy for the whole route. And in fact, this is exactly the same for human beings, for our life. So laziness is the biggest foe of our practice. Whomsoever could be persistent and diligent all the time is considered as successful. For those of you who have procrastination, do not delay. And really don't create the habit of delay. There are people, when they go to recitation, they really want to recite, they really want to memorize the whole text by heart. A few practitioners memorize the first stanzas of Bodhisattva Charyavatara, the Madhyamika, and many different texts, but only remember the first few stanzas, but they don't have the persistence and patience to memorize the rest of the text. And then the next part will just easily go through the next verses. The translation is a bit different again in the Chinese version. So the Buddha then summarized and saying that indulged in alcohol, in intoxication, and being with friends and drinking buddies, their wealth are gathered for a very short period of time. But with time, the money will be squandered. Some people who really like alcohol, really like intoxication, they don't want to work. They only squander their life with alcohol. This is really poor. Without any strain, they would drink all day, and they really enjoy dancing and singing. They would go to places where they play mahjong and being with people who are bad friends, who have bad influence. Some people may start off being in a wealthy and a powerful family, but eventually, because of such a kind of a lifestyle, they lose everything. Just as some officials, some leaders, that's what they do, and then eventually they end up with nothing. associate oneself with evil friends, not correcting one's mistake and faults, only to slander the monastics. Because of such wrong view, even the worldly people would not even look at those people and would laugh at these kind of people. This kind of action also cause people to keep their distance from such a kind of person. Before you have a bad friend, people may praise you, may really like you, but after you have influence from bad friend, then the people would not have such respect towards you anymore. Some may feel that, who cares what people think of me? But that's not true, because when everyone has such bad view of you or don't really respect you, how can you have a place to live in this world? When you don't have a good reputation, how could you survive in this world? And vice versa, if you have good reputation, if you are respected, then you will enjoy living anywhere. The worldly people would not associate themselves from the kind of person who drink and gamble a lot. The Chinese version is not really associated or follows the order of the previous text, rather it's more of a summarization. Gambling, enjoy gambling, and distracted by forms or by the external phenomena, have a competitive mind. And they enjoy the evil companion, therefore do not have any gratitude towards people who had been kind and nice to them. And this kind of actions are not liked by the worldly people. Just as Churchill said, there's no forever friend, forever foe, but forever benefits. When the person is useless, then the crowd will discard you. When you're very useful, when you're able to contribute, then people would all enjoy you. Nowadays, gratitude, filial piety, kindness are so much needed in this society because people's minds are so much are very practical in some way. When you're useful, I'll be nice to you. But when you're not useful, why am I being nice to you? In fact, not just the worldly leaders and worldly employers who would do that. Some people, when they are looking at their gurus, are also the same way. I think that's how the worldly view are tinting the transmundane or transworldly view. When we're living in this kind of a society, we should really protect our own mind and our own actions, making sure they're moral, they're virtuous. One who is indulged in intoxication, although already really poor, but being unnecessarily luxurious in lifestyle.
愿意就是那种这个浪费的，就这种人的话呢，那最后就是导致的结果是什么呢？就是最后啊，就是家破啊，或者是
in such a lifestyle, this kind of people would would be very easily lost the family and not able to sustain a livelihood in the society. And if you continue this kind of lifestyle, then everything will become apart. Commercials, sometimes they would exaggerate the benefit of alcohol, exaggerate the taste of alcohol, and some even raise to the price that is over tens of thousands of dollars. White wine, red wine, black wine, you name it. In fact, all of those wines brings minimal to none benefit to human health, but it brings lots of harm to oneself in terms of health as well as wealth. Some very devoted Buddhists, they have lots of faith, but somehow they cannot keep away from alcohol. Lay practitioners, I think, if you're too indulged with alcohol, then your actions could also be influenced by it. And then gambling, drinking, and being with other people's consorts or female friends, playing games, and such kind of actions are just like a waning moon, will bring them to ruins. They like gambling, they like drinking, and then they like sexual misconduct. They have all the things that's considered as non-virtuous actions. And for such kind of people, even if they had a good reputation, good and kind of hearts before, once you have all these kind of bad habits in one person, then all those great qualities, all those future goals are not going to succeed for him anymore. If you practice evil, you receive the evil karma, you receive the evil creation. Being association with evil companions do not bring any happiness and comfort in this lifetime and next, and eventually becoming empty-handed. So enjoy sleeping in the day, because people would drink a lot in the evening, and the second morning they don't want to get up. I know a person who really likes drinking in the morning, and then in the morning he feels that he has headache and doesn't want to go to work. He continues to say that, I don't want to drink, I won't drink, I promise I won't drink. But after a while, they would go back to the habitual pattern. Well, because the friend came, I didn't know what I did last night. So during the day and night, they have a rather very distorted day and night. In the day they sleep, at night they have lots of hopes and fears and expectations, lots of thinking, couldn't fall asleep. They don't have good friends, they're very lonely, and they cannot maintain a home life. Just as how some alcohol, just how some father who are very much into intoxication and alcoholism, and the family couldn't really continue to thrive. The spouse would argue with the spouses will argue together, and the children will cry after hearing such argument. So we should really contemplate on such faults. Don't want to work in the morning, and winter and summer are too hot and cold to work, and therefore they're lazy, distracted, gambler, drunkard, people who enjoy desire, sexual misconduct, being in bad companion. Buddhist or not, I think you should read into it. In fact, that's why I think Sigalovada Sutta is so important, because it is very practical. During the day, if a person do not want to work and being very lazy in winter and in summer, everything, none of those things could be succeeded. Use all different excuses eventually will destroy any hope and any success. I say many people are very diligent over here. Consistently. It's easy to find people to be diligent in a short period of time, but it's hard to find someone who's very diligent for days and days, days after days, years after years. With such consistency, is very rare. In the Mahayana 6 Paramita Sutra, where it says that all fruits of achievement come from diligence, desire, anger, ignorance, doubt, and confusion, all these destructive emotions come from being lazy. I think worldly speaking, this is exactly the same. All the worldly achievement also comes from diligence. Desire, anger, ignorance, doubts, and confusion all comes from being lazy. How? Because the three poisons all come from lack of diligence. People whoever has confusion has those three poisons. They are not diligent in practicing and studying the Dharma. Otherwise, they won't have such afflictions and such poisons. The last one, where it says that if one could continuously to be diligent without caring for cold and hot or summer and winter, the day and night, consistently, then all things can be accomplished. Just like how the sun and the moon are without obstacle and they're in the space. So do not give any excuses. Just continuously, consistently to be diligent. If everyone's consistent, then consistently diligent, maybe at first you would encounter some kind of obstacles and difficulties, but eventually you will succeed. His Holiness Penner Rinpoche when he first went to India, as India at that time was already occupied, or mostly the Indian people are Hindus, and there are very little number of Buddhism. Therefore, when His Holiness Penra Rinpoche went to India, he wanted to build a monastery, or rather a Buddhist university. He first then bought a cow and milked the cow. Then he put bottled those milks, and ride a tricycle and sold those milk. And eventually, he bought a motorcycle and sold those milk. And then his diligence impressed someone and found people to support him. And eventually, he was able to build the Buddhist university in India. In fact, this is really quite difficult. This kind of spirit of starting something from scratch, as well as Trungpa Rinpoche. When he first went to Trungpa Rinpoche, he first planted trees and grass, and sometimes he would do things together with the Westerners together. And eventually, his effort and his disciples' effort started building a very small center in the United States. When Pansuk Rinpoche went to the Shambhala Center in the West, he told the students of Shambhala and said that, well, at first I feel, when I hear the stories of how Trungpa Rinpoche built the Shambhala Center, I feel really heartbroken, because I can imagine his effort, his diligence, and the kind of hardship that he went through. So I feel quite heartbroken for him, but at the same time, I feel really diligent. I feel that his diligence is really impressive, and I really praise for his diligence. And each brick and each shilling is built from scratch, and that is very impressive. So I think that speech was given in a center in Canada when Pansuk Rinpoche visited, which was at a time Trungpa Rinpoche already passed away years ago. So practitioners here, I really hope that you have the aspiration of going out to the world. Don't have the mind of just staying here, wallowing into this small place. I don't want to go out and so on. Don't. Go out. Have such big aspiration to go out, to build centers, to go propagate Dharma. You should have such mind. You should have such kind of power in your heart, and the aspiration of making the Dharma well known, or carry forward the Dharma to the world, to people outside. Do not give up. If you have such kind of spirit of not giving up, then you'll be able to receive great reward and great achievement in this world. So our audience over here, doesn't matter what you're studying. Don't just think about yourself, your personal liberation. Don't think about your personal fame. Don't think about your personal gains. And just stay in such a tiny corner. Don't just think about those small things. Is it prettier? I'm not sure if I'll keep this yet. So we should have such big-heartedness. I think the last verse is really worth of memorization. Don't think about your personal gains. Whatever things that I could do, whatever time it is, no matter what, I will be benefiting sentient beings. I will be studying and contemplating and practicing the Dharma. I will be happy every day, and I will not associate myself with evil companion. And today we'll stop here.